As I mentioned previously, the real power in using ActionScript generated animation is to modify and tweak the animation by manipulating the code in the Actions panel. To start this technique, we need to review the essential classes involved in these ActionScript generated animations. The essential classes involved in animating with ActionScript are the animator factory, the motion base, and the motion classes. You could need additional classes depending on the properties that the motion tween manipulates. For example, if the motion tween transforms or rotates the display object, the geom class is involved. If it applies filters, the filter classes are involved. If we look at the script generated by Flash in this animation, copied from a motion tween set up in the timeline of another file and copied here, we can see many of these classes plus additional classes such as the Flash geom and the Flash filters up here. The motion class stores a keyframe animation sequence that can be applied to a visual object. The animation data includes position, scale, width, height, rotation, skew, color, filters, and easing, and many more. Many of which we can see right here in this script. Here is the width, height. Here is the scale X, rotation. If we move this over here, we can see the filters as well as the geom class there. Notice also the X and Y properties, or the positioning properties, can be found here. Open the animation _2 code.fla movie in the work files folder. Open up the Actions panel, click on frame 1, and notice that there are some of the classes, the motion classes that I mentioned previously: vector, motion base, filters, geom, plus a new one, animator factory 3D. Notice also that the name _motion symbol 1 _2 has been automatically generated for the animation object. Flash has attached the prefix _motion to the display object name. Automatically generated names are based on the instance name of the target object of the motion tween in the Flash authoring tool. The duration property of the motion object indicates the total frames in the motion tween. In this case, there are 75 frames in this tween. Now, when you reuse the ActionScript in your own animations, you can keep the name that Flash generated, or you can substitute a different name. By default, Flash automatically names the display object instance whose motion tween you're copying. That is, if it doesn't already have an instance name. If you change the tween name, make sure that you change it throughout the script. Notice here in this script, the add property array is very conspicuous. This is a method of the motion base class. It adds an array of values to describe every tweened property. Now, potentially these arrays contain one array item for every keyframe in the motion tween. It's probably the case here. Looks like there's about 75 entries for my X and Y properties there. And remember, this animation has 75 frames. Often some of these arrays contain fewer items than the total number of keyframes in your motion tween. This situation occurs when the last value in the array does not change for the remaining frames. The first two arrays here, X and Y, do have 75 entries because this corresponds to the movement across the stage. And in most animations, your objects are moving in every single frame. Now, Flash has added additional add property arrays here to describe the other motion here in this animation. Scale X and scale Y is changing the size. Skew X and skew Y are changing the skew values. Also, I'm rotating this in 3 dimensions, so I have a rotation X, a rotation Y, and a rotation Z properties here. Actually, it looks like I'm not rotating in any of those axes there because the value is 0, and notice I only have one value there. These properties were added automatically because the original animation included skewing, scaling, and rotating. Now, it's possible to go ahead here and modify each of the values in the array to modify the tween, or I can even add additional motion properties by adding more add property array methods. For example, I could add a property array that's changing the blend properties to change the blend characteristics of my animation. So to get a better handle on all the ways you can modify these automatically generated scripts, let's move on to the next movie and talk more about the various motion tween properties such as scale X and scale Y, rotation, blend mode, matrix 3D, and other properties that you can easily modify here in the scripts.